talk to you guys about the potential grant loan that I think you should get, but it's up to you. You guys are doing your due diligence on this, and you should. I sent you this 3-page memo. I sent to Nathan. He dispersed it. And basically, right now, Ecology's reviewed the engineering report I did for you guys, and for modifications and an assessment as part of the permit where they asked about whether or not it met its biological limits, issues with the leaking lagoons, because that potentially could contaminate the groundwater, and they're concerned about that because your existing lagoons are 40 mil, which is really thin. I'm surprised. After I retired from the agency, when I retired from the agency, we were still requiring double liners. I don't know why they allowed you to put in a single liner at the time.
That's in the pond
But
itself.
they did. Huh?
In the aeration ponds.
In the aeration ponds. They should have been double lined. But anyway, so what happened was, if you look on the, I didn't number these, I just assembled them as I was leaving work yesterday. Okay, one of the, here, on the memo, on the last page, it talks about the strategy for the project as we entered the project. One was to provide a new hydrogeo report to enable Ecology to evaluate and reconsider raising your downstream nitrate limit, evaluate the treatment efficiency of the plant, simplify operations, simplify performance, and reduce requirements and costs, and ensure that you can meet your 2021 permit. Remember, Ecology was going to lower the 2021 permit to 1 milligram per liter nitrate. That's basically not achievable with your plant, and we would never recommend, adding a unit on there that could be very expensive to operate and very expensive to install in order to meet 1 milligram per liter, and certainly not with any great certainty. So, after looking at that, and Ecology even brought it up in the initial permit, what they said was, it looks like there's interference, or something's happening where the background, I think their wells 1 and 2 are about 1 milligram per liter or lower. So that's what they're going to use as the background limit, which is what you have to meet. So there's a hydrogeologist I use. I trust her. I used to really like working with her when I was with the agency. And so I asked her to investigate this. And they know her too at Ecology, and they trust her. So we found that the hydrogeo report that was originally done was really not representative of the groundwater there, behind, the background. After her analysis, which you haven't gotten, but you'll get when I submit the final report, it shows that the background, that Coal Creek interferes with what they consider the background wells. So it's not valid to use 1 milligram per liter. In the comments that they sent me, and they sent you a copy, Nathan, they're going to raise it to about 8, which is achievable, because right now you achieve 7. The high you achieve is 7. So the main impetus for the report was primarily to show you that, to show Ecology and get Ecology to raise the final, what would become their final limit above 1. I was hoping they'd raise it to 10, but it doesn't matter. You can meet 7. And they're going to raise it to about 8. One of the issues is your recirculating gravel filter is so oversized, you only use 6 of the units out of 33, so you have capacity. So the other things I wanted to look at were, and I talked to Ecology, evaluate the treatment efficiency of the plant, simplify operations. Some of the issues I see as probably being most problematic to you guys. One is the odors that come from the system, and that's primarily in the initial settling basins.
Yeah.
The biggest problem you have is, one, they're exposed. The top is exposed. You don't have a means of sludge removal. I don't understand that design. You use, and Scott I guess when you get the vac truck working, you pump it into the other unit, you know,
Yeah.
and you only use one.
Only use one, yeah.
Yeah, and the other option you have, in my opinion, an almost useless preliminary treatment system, which is the swirl concentrators. Those are primarily stormwater related. They're to remove rocks and stuff and other things in a stormwater system. They're not meant for a sewage treatment plant, in my opinion.
No, they don't work at all.
And then you gotta have a
Build
back truck.
cake in here, we gotta back them out all the time.
Yeah, and your back truck's always in repair, because how long do you expect the back truck to last? Maybe 10 years? I was looking them up, and sometimes I've seen 20-year ones, but they're really hard to get, because they undergo a lot of use. So, you know, so I looked at the systems that are there, and there's a map back here. I think which summarizes some of the things that I think that you guys should consider. I've highlighted some of the things that I kind of think you might want to do as a means of simplifying operations and actually reducing operational costs. What I did was, it's 62 of the report, page 62 of the report, and I have it here, what I included, and I included this, and basically, let me explain to you my assumptions. I figure that if you operate the plant as it should be operated, so it's not an issue with you guys, I think you probably need a new employee. And I just put a, $26,000 in cost. That doesn't include benefits and everything else. Annual sludge hauling, and I don't know what it really costs. I know that, 50 cents a gallon or something is normal.
Where do we go with that if we were to do that,
Yeah,
Scott?
where would you go with it? I don't know.
Well, if we get it, you're talking about a bar screen?
You gotta get a bar screen, or
That's
have
the
them go
only
to
way
a place that has
That's the only
one.
way we can haul it out, is
Yep.
if we screen it down to 3/8 material.
Yep.
And then Bartech will take it.
Oh, they
Bartech?
will?
Okay.
Yeah.
And what do they charge per gallon?
I don't know. I don't know if they'll take it, I don't know if we'll have to de-water it or take it over there wet. Our plan was take it over there wet.
I
They
think
said they
you
would do
can,
it.
but I'm not sure. But you do have to screen it. Those are the new biosolids rules.
Yeah,
And I don't know what they charge. I assume at least 50 cents a gallon.
yeah, I'm sure, yeah.
And I assume, just throwing this up, annual sludge hauling from the settling basin, 5 times per year. I assumed $1 a gallon, for everything. And so I assume you get 2,000.
How many gallons would you?
The what?
How many gallons?
I assume 2,000 gallons per haul, which is a larger sludge hauler, but I think they would charge you more than they would just a septic tank.
I would
So-
assume,
So I just assumed if you operated like it should, you'd be taking out, it'd be $10,000 a year. Added administration, you got to pay Janice more to do this, and other things, miscellaneous. I added another 10 grand. Added testing, including testing of the sludge, and actually other things that the biosolids. Betty Ann, is that her name?
yeah. Bickner, yeah, Betty and Bickner.
Yeah, might require. I just threw in $10,000. Then I annualized the purchase of a new Vector truck. I assumed it only lasts 10 years. And they run from $250,000 for I think, 2-3-year-old one. You get a brand new one, you could cost as much as $500,000. I assume it lasts 10 years. Then you got to get a new one. I put in an annualized a discount rate of 0, assuming that interest rates will stay low. So that, just maybe arbitrarily, but very liberally, it'd be like $82,000 in labor, in cost to the city to operate it properly. Let me go over some of the things that I think. Now, in the back, so let me go through some of the options. You guys have the map? These are on what's called page 61. The recommendations I have in the report, and Ecology doesn't I was happy, they just sent a 2-page comment letter.
Okay.
Because, and most of it's just more information they want, which is fine. And there are some deficiencies I had that I can clean up real easily. I'd like to remove the swirl concentrators. They serve no purpose and are actually a labor issue for you guys. I'd like to put in a single rotating fine screen and a channel prior to manhole SM1. And right at the end of the stuff I sent you is one of these, it's called micro screen. They put in a channel or an incline. They bag up the stuff that comes in from the sewers, puts it in a garbage bag. Just package them up and haul them off. It's easy to do, and I put in 3 of them since I've been with this company, and everybody's really happy with them. I have cost here. They cost like $100,000.
What do they separate out?
They separate anything really smaller than, I think, 1/4 inch. It's a plate that has perforations that I think are 1/4 inch in size. And so, there's putrescible stuff in there, but you just bag it up and you just close the bag, put it, and have it hauled away.
You can put it in a dumpster.
Huh?
You can put it in a dumpster.
I think you can. Yeah, it's considered easy to remove. I think I'd like to put it, I don't know exactly. I'm thinking of putting it outside. You can put it, we put in one at Crystal Mountain on the west side. And at first, they didn't want to heat the building up. I told them, you really need to heat it, but they were concerned about the cost. They eventually we put in a building, but if they didn't, they would put in heat tape running all around the channel, just so that, to keep it from freezing. That's no big deal. But I prefer putting it in a building for you guys. But we can talk about that, if you decide to go with this. The next thing is I'd like to clean out the settling basins. And what at some point you guys are going to have to pump it out, screen it, do everything with it. If you do get the grant loan, then that would be part of the construction project. So you don't have to pay for that. I weighed whether or not, right at the end, I have pictures of the stainless steel coarse bubble diffuser that I recommend for you guys. The reason I like the diffuser, that kind of diffuser, it's coarse. You put them on the side of the basins, and the basins are shallow. They're only 6 feet deep. Most of them are 12, 15 feet deep. So I'm not really that interested in necessarily treatment efficiency. I have some calculations in the operations manual that you guys have, as well as the, and they're just, these are not computers. I just run them through by hand because it's better, and from a regulatory review standpoint, it's easier for ecology to review it and say, hey, these are where the equations come from. We have a new structural engineer we just hired, and Kevin's old school. He uses a computer program for this, but then there's structural things that he asked the kid, so can you show me the underlying equations for this? And he couldn't. And then when he said, well, just have the computer spew out some of the calculations, he didn't know how to do it. He was probably the top of his class at University of Idaho. And there's just some basic stuff the kids don't know anymore. If they can't run it through a computer, they don't know what's going on.
Mhm.
So anyway, I think he's learning pretty fast, but he needs to adjust some things in his thought process. Okay, the diffuser system, these are the kind. They're set on the side, one on a side, each of the basins, and they roll. The reason I prefer these, I priced out a directional mixer like you have in the lagoons, aspirating stuff. The problem is you can't control the air so much. And the thing I'm concerned about most is sludge buildup in the lagoons again. What I'd like to do is you guys be able to adjust it, because there are valves and stuff on each of the diffusers. And these aren't that much more expensive when you include the diffuser and the blower system and the little cover I have to put over the blowers.
Will that eliminate the windmills that are out there?
Do I, oh, no, I want to keep, no, you'll keep
In
one
the
of the
aeration
two.
pond, we'll still have both of
We'll
those.
have one.
One,
I'd like to take, and I'd like to take them both out of operation during the construction, reline one of them with a double liner with a leak detection system. That'll show ecology that you don't leak anymore, which is an ongoing thing for all the number of years you've been here. And these will be 60 mil liners, 60 mil HDP liners, which are thicker. And I have some calculations in there showing that, well, all liners leak. That's the problem. But if you have two liners with a leak detection system inside, which is just a tube, and you extract the wastewater from it, you can show, because they all leak, and you can show that it's not a great amount.
Or did they leak from installation?
No.
Popping holes in them? Where are they getting?
It leaks because things happen to them. I mean, it's been pretty widely shown. They're not completely watertight.
Do they line the question, do they line before they put the liners down, do they put bentonite or something?
No, what they normally do, I don't know what they did for your original one, but a lot,
I know
no,
what they did.
if you have the double liner, if you had
they put the
bentonite
liner
underneath,
in,
it'd be
they put the
considered,
liner in ours, and then they put,
what'd they do?
they put the liner in ours, and they put fly cut, basically bentonite, fly cut concrete, soft concrete, in the bottom of it to hold the liner down.
Okay, but it's not completely across the bottom, right? Or is it?
Covers the whole bottom.
Okay.
Probably a foot.
But the side, and what
Not
about
up
the
the sides, it's just in the bottom.
because that's probably just to keep the liner down, like you said, but they leak. And there's some calculations I put in both the operation manual that you guys have, and also this one to show that they leaked using the protocol that Ecology uses.
I'm
And
just surprised they did.
Huh?
They got it backwards, in my opinion, because around drinking wells and domestic wells, and they seal off the
Oh, yeah.
surface water, and it
Yeah.
does a good, excellent job, is why they didn't. do
Yeah.
it.
And basically what you have is you have a bentonite bed and you put a liner on it, that's considered double lined. And so the beauty of having, for one thing, I'd put in a thicker liner, 60 mil versus a 40 mil. And then you put a geotextile in between the two and one underneath to protect the bottom liner. And then you put a means of extracting whatever leak comes out.
Okay,
And
so
so,
it's kind of contained, it's not getting seeping into the
Yeah.
surface.
honestly, the best thing about it is that because all liner leaks, and I'm sure it even leaks from the secondary liner, but once you do that, I think they consider that as much as you can possibly do. So they're not going to ever ask you again about, unless there's you can't keep water in there, they're going to consider that you don't leak.
All right.
So that's an advantage versus what you guys have been fighting this battle now for decades, right? On whether the lagoon leaks and what's happening there and everything else. So that problem goes away if you do that. But anyway, so the piping will all be changed. So the stuff that comes from the new aeration basins, which you will no longer have a settling basin, okay? You can then also control, because you can control the diffusers, you'll be able to adjust it, and what the intent is so that you don't have any sludge that settles in the basins. They get transported to the lagoon if they're operational. And right now you don't. You said you have no problems with the pump station in terms of sludge accumulation.
Yeah, no, it gets sludge in it, but it's not, we've got it screened down to where it's, the bottom of the pump pit has got
Some.
some,
And someday, you may want to pump it up, but it's not a lot.
We pump it out 2-3 times a year.
Who do you use? Yourselves?
We just pump it out of lagoons, out with our Vector truck and put it in that first settling cell.
Okay.
We just keep,
What my intent would be is that you have the ability with the converted settling ponds, which are now aeration basins, and you can also put them back into the either pond for more treatment, depending on how much organic matter there is, how much it'll be reduced. So you also, during construction, would only use, the staging of the construction would be putting in the diffuser system, putting in the screen, initial screen, the fine screen, and then rehabilitating the two lagoons, abandoning one and putting a double liner with a leak detection system in the other, and then reinstalling the directional aspirating aerators in that one. Ecology said, well, you know, maybe we should keep the other lagoon, double line it. We'll have to look at costs to see. But, and what you guys like, because you guys will have input on all of this if you decide to go with this process. It's always better. Yeah.
I have a question. Terminology, lagoon, settling basin and all that, just for clarification, what do we mean by a lagoon? Is it like a pond,
A pond.
a settling
Well,
basin?
he's calling them lagoons, and they're actually aeration basins.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking the same apple?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
okay.
And the basin with the diffusers in it, they serve the same purpose.
Okay.
And, you know, so. But right now, your system, Kim asked if I'd change the design parameters with the new system, and I don't think I would. Because really, the prime driver in treatment for your system is the recirculating gravel filter, and I don't recommend any change to it. I mean, you're only using
Yeah,
16%, 15% of the capacity. So you guys have a lot of capacity there.
And adding more screenage and, filtration stuff, is that gonna be problematic going forward? More labor intensive to watch or babysit?
No, you don't, the new screen?
Yeah.
Oh, no, it automatically bags it. You have to go out there once every 2 days and shut the bag and haul it off. Or you can store it for a while, just in, I think they normally, I think it's
Odessa has
a
about the same
30-gallon
thing.
bag, right?
Odessa has about the same thing, and
Yeah.
they save up so many bags and so many trucks and taking the Bartec and dump them out there.
Yeah.
Well,
Comes with a garbage can or something in a bag you just open up and you seal it up and everything else. But with that, I really don't think you need a Vector truck anymore. And especially with conversion of the settling basin.
that'll eliminate the Vector truck, you said, or to some degree.
Yeah.
And as far as babysit, how many times you go down there in a month or a week to test?
We go down there daily to do sampling and stuff, and then we'll give you more stuff to monitor until we get the,
Was that also something in here I read that it'll alleviate the frequency of testing?
I think, well, here's a problem. I don't think you're testing sufficiently enough. And if you maintain the old system, there's just going to be more testing.
And what are they,
so how, we're attesting to the ecology's rules and your design standards. Why aren't we testing it efficiently?
Well, I think that in the long run, I think they've been, they've been pretty lax on things. And
The ecology?
yeah, believe it or not.
Yeah, well.
They're being pretty lenient, and
They've been what?
lenient. And basically, I think that, and plus the biosolid stuff that you're not doing right now, that will go away. You wouldn't have that issue other than once every 10 years or something for biosolids, because you're not going to accumulate sludge like you are currently in the settling basin.
Well, it's sludge, trash, everything. Everything that's in there goes through and ends up settling in those settling basins.
Right,
And whatever we don't screen out goes into the aeration basin.
right.
So,
well, like what do you do like with foreign objects like kids' toys or teddy bear, stuff like
everything
that?
comes through there and we screen it out. We got screens that we put in. It wasn't designed that way. We put the screens in. And I think the one screen is 3/4, and then it goes to, with 10 feet, it goes to a 3/8, about a 3/8 screen. And we vector all that stuff up and take it and put it in that aeration cell. But that'll eliminate all that. That's that's what we need more than anything.
Right.
How many years roughly life expectancy in a system like this?
I would say 10 to 20 years, easily. For example, this system here, well, the diffuser system should last, and we're keeping the settling basin, the structure. That should last another 20 years at least. This unit, it's mechanical, and they normally say 10 to 15, but this thing is designed this is the smallest unit, and it has a capacity of 1 million gallons a day. We don't have anywhere near there. So I think it would last 10 to 20 years.
30,000 gallons
A day.
a day is what, right, Charlie?
What?
30 to 35
Yeah,
is,
a day,
or
Pretty consistent?
on average, yes.
For what?
Gallons.
30-some thousand gallons a day right now, what we're going through.
Yeah.
And you say that one's
A million.
technically designed for 1 million?
And that's the smallest unit they have. So you're not really taxing the system.
Yeah.
There'll be a lot of convenience with that. Okay, let me just finish what else. The aeration cells will be temporarily removed. There's enough capacity in the 63,000 gallon settling basin capacity to actually do the pretreatment, other than, and the construction's not going to happen during spring runoff, so you're not going to have that issue. The weirs, we talked about adjusting the weirs. The literature indicates that you should be recycling, having the wastewater go through the system multiple times. And for some reason, your design is based on 3/4 of it going to discharge and 1/4 going back, recirculating through the system. And the literature indicates it should be the opposite. 3 recycle for additional treatment and only 1 to discharge. And there'll probably be times you don't even have to discharge. And what my recommendation for that is the weir box be modified. So you have, and I think the best thing to do is to have just removable weir plates, and so that you can adjust 50%, 75%, 25%, and you can then fine tune the operation that way. So that should actually enhance your treatment. Other things you eventually can do is increasing the number of beds that you use at a time. Pretty easy adjustment, I would think.
Number of what?
The beds that you use in the recirculating gravel filter.
that's what's up across the road.
Okay, maybe the most important things. Let me tell you about the grant program. The program is one in which, because of the high amount of money you guys spend on operation and maintenance sewer assessments, this is going to be a 75% grant if you get it. I think we've been pretty successful in getting grants for our clients. For construction, the development of the plans and specs are only 50%. The repayment schedule, I based it on a 20-year repayment schedule, and I think the interest rate for the repayment is 0.4% a year, so less than 1%. And I estimated that the ultimate cost of the project is going to be $1.35 million. This is include all the piping, all the electrical, all the replumbing, and everything else. So what I did on this cost effectiveness thing is I assumed added power for the units is going to be like $4,000 a year. The cost of the proposed changes, this would be amortizing over 20 years. The cost of the system is going to be $65,000. However, if Ecology pays 75% of that, the cost to you is going to be like $16,000. You add the 4,000, it's 20 grand. Also, so I compared that to the cost that I think you might be spending if you operate the system as it is. It's like $80,000. So you potentially could save $60,000 a year. That's if you could operate the system as it is and still have problems, and it won't be near as much. But this will make operation a lot simpler. Also, there's a chance that in a year or so, the reason I chose ecology funding is one thing, 75%. CDBG, who we've used a lot, and I talked to John Gallo with CDBG. You guys have met him, haven't you? Really nice guy. He was a private engineer when I was with the agency, so I've known him for years. And basically, they have a funding program that's 100% grant, and they just recently raised their limit to $900,000. So even if you get, and theirs is more competitive than Ecology's, and Ecology's going to fully support at least the application and helping you guys with this, it would be so 900,000 and another 400,000 that you'd have to take a private loan out. That would be more expensive to go with them than it would go to Ecology. However, they have a program. If you get Ecology funding and Ecology support, you can also, the following year, because I think their application period is in June, they would take up some of the slack of your share. I can't guarantee they'll get it. I was told in the last couple of years they funded 3 ecology projects that way, where you're paying 75%, they come in and assume some of the debt, the 25% of your share, and make that a grant.
What has been the percentage that they pick up that you've seen in that 25%?
They haven't given me a good answer on that.
Okay.
But I assume at least half. So that would reduce your costs even more for carrying a loan for 20 years. So basically, I don't know. I think that it would make a lot of sense. And the other incentive that might be of interest to you is when repayment starts. If you get what's called a Step 4 grant, or a Step 4, it'd be a Step 4 application, which would be plans and specs and construction. Repayment starts for any of this, including the plans and specs, and including the construction. That would come in a year after completion of construction. So I have a proposed schedule of implementation. I think it's the last page. And so you wouldn't have to start repaying it if the schedule holds until November of 2024.
And if we go for it, we're gonna get this grant from Ecology, you'll have to pick up there. Right?
Oh, I don't know. If everything, no matter how good you are, you never know. I mean, if the city of Seattle has a major catastrophe, they could channel a lot of the money there. Although they have encumbered some of the money to small communities. So your chances I think are good. It's the same application process where you got the 50% money for the engineering report that I'm completing.
Mm-hmm.
I just got a clarification for everybody, and myself. Clarification, are these grants or loans?
It's a grant loan because
usually
they
a
loan
grant
you.
You don't pay back.
The what?
Usually grants are free money, you don't pay
Yeah,
back.
but only 70. They don't make it 100%. They always
Okay,
want.
That's why I wanted to,
It's a 75-25 grant, so we pay back 25%.
right, okay, I just,
And is that you mentioned on the CDBG possibly being able to actually fund some of the 25% that we owe? Is that a separate application process at
Yeah.
a later date?
That would be a separate application once we finish the plans and specs,
Okay.
and then apply probably in 2022, early and mid-year
Okay.
for the construction funds.
So we would be responsible for 25%, and then actually there's a possibility of even less than that.
Yeah. I think it's a good program, and these days, The reason you qualify for that, you'd be considered, what do they call it?
Hardship case.
Yeah, but there's also a term they use because you're in the 3% of your median household income rate for your sewer fees. And even with the local share, you're not going to get into the higher amount because that's outrageous. That's over 5%. You don't qualify for that quite yet. But I know Ecology would support. Kim said, I'll write a letter to CDBG telling them what a worthwhile project this is.
It wouldn't hurt, probably.
Oh, it helps. And the thing is, if Ecology gives you the money, gets you the initial grant, then that's already a heavy endorsement. And then if they follow up with a letter, what kind of support do you have? The other thing I put in there, and Kim wanted me, you're going to need new monitoring wells.
I was going to mention that.
Yeah,
Thank
you're going to need new ones. And so I have the hydrogeologist we use.
So why do we need new ones? Because they're interfering by Coal Creek?
Yeah, and
So-
Ecology, probably 2 more. So I don't know if they would actually they might want one upstream and another one further downstream,
you. These actual wells, cased well drilled and everything?
25, 30 feet. They're still expensive. I called the Budinger who drilled your 3 wells, and they John Finnegan, who probably came out, said, maybe 25 grand.
What?
And they're pretty reasonable, and they make sure everything's done right. I'm using them to drill wells up at Medley Falls for separating their storm sewer.
Now, so we need more monitor wells, in addition to the 3 we've got.
Yeah, you probably abandoned 1 or 2 of the existing ones.
So it's not a needing more, it's needing different.
Better term, needing different.
Different locations.
Yeah.
Mm.
And they're going to be up above. I don't know where they're at right now and how often they're monitored.
Every month we
You guys pull the sample out?
pull a sample, take it into AAA.
See, the problem is, with the interference, the background is invalid. The 1 milligram per liter background is interfered with by Coal Creek. So the tactic I'm using in applying is, 1, eliminating your perceived discharge into the groundwater, and from the hydrogeo report, I'm going to say it can also adversely impact, not just for the nitrate, because that's not of any significance to the surface water, but other parameters because of the interchange where you could impact Coal Creek adversely, besides the impact on the groundwater underlying all that stuff.
So part of what you're saying is that the wells as they are, say nitrates from field runoff down Coal Creek, has offset the baseline of what those wells are? It's putting
Well,
nitrates
see,
in
all
them.
they care about with regard to drinking or groundwater is nitrate.
Okay.
And so evidently, Coal Creek has low nitrate.
Okay.
And it's interfering with the groundwater where they're monitoring as background. So it's not valid to say,
Where we are monitoring.
yeah, where you guys
So
are
you're saying Coal Creek is watering down our samples?
Yeah.
Or,
for the background.
okay.
Because I think 3 is probably pretty good.
3
Is that-
3 is the dirtiest of all.
Yeah, and that's the one you want. That shows the worst situation that you guys have. And so basically, 3 shows that you are meeting effluent limits, but at 8, or however they're going to change it to.
Yeah.
The ecology hydrogeologist also took a look at that and said, yeah, it needs to be raised. The original study was not valid that you guys had done in 2002. So,
Did you say Coal Creek nitrates are low?
yeah,
3?
surface water is always low.
Uh-huh.
You can put ammonia is not a concern for groundwater so much, but it converts to nitrate, which is problematic. And Coal Creek, for Coal Creek, ammonia would be a problem, but not nitrate.
Mhm. And you mentioned concentrations earlier in the presentation. Is that milligrams per liter?
Yeah.
And personal, sort of a related question. In discussing nitrates, I've never heard anybody address nitrites, but nitrites are a much more energetic molecule.
Well, the thing is, they convert real easily to nitrate, and the
I see.
portion they are, and I'm not a chemist, but, you know, it's not significant. So normally what they do is they quantify the amount of nitrate as nitrogen or ammonia as nitrogen.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes they put a total nitrogen limit on. In your case, it's directly nitrate. And that's
I
what they
see.
put in the permit, at 1 milligram per liter. Like, it was 10 until they redo the permit, rewrite the permit in 2021. And that's why there was some, we needed to kind of rush doing the hydrogeo report to
Mhm.
show that you actually don't have to meet 1 milligram per liter. And when they rewrite the permit for 2021 for you guys, it's not going to say 1, which as far as I'm concerned is not achievable with your system. There's no way you can meet it.
Mhm.
Why do you think that that limit was set at 1?
Because when they did the 2002 hydrogeo report, they sunk some wells and then didn't actually didn't consider the fact that Coal Creek interferes with it, with its low nitrate.
Coal
And then
Creek essentially waters down the well, so it shows in the testing that we had less nitrate in the existing
Yeah.
well
Yeah.
water.
And so they use that as background, but it's not valid. So anyway,
Is there any recompense for, I mean, was that something the city paid for back in '02?
yeah,
Or was that granted also?
I don't know, I don't remember.
How do we fix?
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can't,
if
yeah, you're
something
not
is-
gonna,
That's incredible.
yeah.
Anyway.
Anyway. So anyway, I'm hoping that this makes sense to you, you know, and like I said, it will make the situation, is it really smelly, the plant, some of the times? Can you smell it in town
Sometimes
at all?
just, on warm days, the selling basins kind of turn over.
Yeah, do the neighbors say anything? You're far enough away, aren't you?
It's all
The
about
neighbors-
wind direction.
The neighbors complain.
They
He's
do?
the closest neighbor. They
You smell it once in a while?
You can smell it occasionally,
Yeah,
and I'm trying to recall, sometimes at night, sometimes during the day, it's just, it doesn't, there's no really rhyme or reason, it just
yeah.
kind of shows up.
Well, you know, it's basically operating as a septic tank,
Yeah,
uncovered,
Yeah.
you know, so.
So you're not
Am I-
planning on covering those two?
No. But I'm aerating them, and then you know, for operation, that's why I like the diffusers, because you can control them. And you can say, okay, I want to aerate this part more, because I want to send the stuff to the settling basin or, you know, to the pump station.
You're gonna put a divider in them to put the aerators in them?
What?
In the aeration, or in the settling ponds, you can put an aerator in them?
No,
And a diffuser, whatever they call
no,
it?
diffuser's not going in settling, in the ponds, they're going in the settling basins. And you've got 2 chambers.
That's right, that's what I'm talking about. You're gonna divide those two
Yeah.
chambers up?
Yeah.
Separate them out,
Yeah.
each one?
Diffusers on one side, and then so there'll be a action like that,
Okay.
you can circulate it.
So you're gonna put like a wall in the middle of it?
No, there's already a wall there. You've got
Oh, you're
two.
gonna do one side and then the other?
Yeah,
Okay, I see what you're saying.
do we have a layout of the existing, color glossy photos?
Yeah, I brought the old plans,
This is the two aerations for settling basins he's talking about.
Uh-huh,
This is the two soil concentrators. And then
that's what's gonna be added.
this is what you take out, and then there's a screen and put in there. This thing here is gonna be put in there.
I believe, didn't that happen like in 97 or 98, or somewhere around there?
I believe so. I can't remember.
So, it's been, 23 years.
Am I correct, Andy, in stating that the odor, the bad odors that emanate from a plant like this are principally the result of anaerobic bacteria?
yeah.
So am I correct furthermore in saying that if we aerate or aerate more, that would cause a reduction in odors?
It should. The other thing I'm interested in is actually getting some level of treatment in there to feed the
In-stage
recirculating gravel filters, but not so much. And that's why I recommended to you last time, quit using the methanol. You don't, because what you're doing with the treatment system, the lagoons, is you're removing carbon, and then you're putting it back in with methanol, which didn't make any sense to me. And then you're saying, from what I'm seeing, the
It
results.
was engineered that way.
Huh?
It was engineered that way.
Yeah, I don't know why you guys reduced the amount of methanol too. Because didn't the recommendations call for 600 gallons or pounds, whatever?
Yeah.
So we still
Reduced
using
it.
that?
You yourselves
We haven't
reduced
used
it.
it for 2 years now, I think.
Yeah, and I don't see any change that much in the results, which makes sense. Because you want some carbon in there, but you don't want so much, you know.
Wouldn't the alcohol be expected to kill a lot of bacteria too?
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess.
well, I guess my question to stump on that is, like your septic systems for homes or out in the farm and stuff, you usually put yeast cake or, something in there and it kind of takes care of itself. Why can't that be done in something like this?
I considered actually converting those to septic tanks, and I don't think it would be as beneficial. For one thing, you have septic effluent going to the lagoons, and then, I don't know, in some ways
That'd be
it'd be a
like-
little more.
That'd be like the gray water in the septic systems. You have
Yeah.
your solids and then you have your gray water
Right.
going to another tank.
You still also have the
And
problem
drain.
with sludge that you got a 60,000 gallons that you use both of them. And then you have the sludge that you have to pump out every once in a while.
But I just wonder how long that would be, because there's a lot of farms.
It'd be a lot of years, 3-5 years or
They
something.
don't,
Yeah, but then you have it's not really gray water. A septic tank removes about 30% of the VOD. You still will have a lot of carbon in there,
You want to see that?
and you have, wait, that's just when you guys operation it.
Well, it's just questions, I mean, yeah, how fancy do we get? If we do absolutely nothing, ecology is gonna come down on us, right?
I would assume, but you guys have been kind of discussing stuff with them for 20-something years. I don't know.
In other words, it was poorly designed from the beginning.
I've had 2-3 ecology people down here and they said this was designed to be a disaster.
Okay.
I never said
No, you didn't. Ellen Day and USKH and whatever other 3 names you went by there.
that. I think these changes will be very beneficial to you. I really do.
Well, how many other small towns, municipalities
What-
have this?
What are we gonna have to raise our rates to cover this?
Actually, I think, if you compare it to, if you could really compare it to how you should be operating, in fact, you probably don't have to have a Vector truck anymore. I think my thought is overall it'll be a reduction. I think, but the thing is, you could just ignore everything and you wouldn't be increasing the rates. I mean, that's the reality of things. And ecology has so many issues with different plants.
Yeah. What what you're designing and what you're proposing and all that, how many other cities, towns?
RGFs are normally not placed in municipalities. That doesn't mean they don't work. Usually, most of the technology that has been developed for recirculating gravel filters are for Department of Health facilities, which are smaller. Because that's where the technology came from, once they go to septic tanks and drain field oil. Septic tanks can be part of the RGF system, and then they go to drain fields. And they're usually smaller. Your system works, and that's why when I concentrated on what I thought would be best for the community, it doesn't mean it's cheap. I thought operational things were things to concentrate on. Once we got the nitrate limits raised, and that's why we concentrated on the hydrogeo report. I thought that was the most important thing. The report is not anything most importantly, got the nitrate level raised to the point where you can meet it. You would not have been able to meet 1 milligram per liter. So in that, the report I'm writing is, has been a success. Because I know you guys were concerned that in the future, you'd never be able to meet the 1 milligram per liter. And you'd always be in trouble with ecology. You know, and they really didn't want to enforce a 1 milligram per liter number for you guys. Because you guys can't meet it.
It wouldn't even matter how much you increased your biological factors to bring that down.
What do you mean? Oh, no. 1 milligram per liter nitrate is not. Usually you're looking, that's more of an advanced waste treatment system. And you really don't want to add, you can put a nitrogen tower in there and stuff like that. Then you'd have to feed. It's another system that's harder to operate. And even achieving one part per million nitrate is going to be problematic even for that.
You know, this new design capacity is, I mean, they made us double everything last time.
You mean,
Ecology made us put 2 settling basins, 2 aerators, and triple the size of the filter.
yeah, you mean in 2007?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
What, they're not gonna come back and say that again.
No, I mean, for one thing, they asked if I was planning on changing any of the parameters, and I'm going to write back no, because the primary treatment process is the RGF, and that's not changing. The changes I'm recommending are to really address the issues with operation more than anything, and also, you know, the continued problems you have with potential leaking into the groundwater.
So the liner's faulty or is failed.
Yeah. Well, you know, even the protocol that ecology uses to determine what the leakage rate is says that all liners leak. You've got a 40 mil liner. I'd like to put in 2 60 mil liners, put a leak detection system inside, and then not even have a 40 and abandon one. But we'll talk about whether you want to keep
How do
one.
you propose to abandon one? Just fill it in, or?
We have to talk about that, but that's what the
Because if we just line both of them, how much more would that cost?
I had estimated another 100,000 for everything, but.
But I mean, if we got a grant to pay it, and then we can still keep that other aeration pond, so we can clean one and put one back on.
And it might be you want to just lay another liner down on top of it and use it as a temporary liner for an emergency. But the thing is, you know, you're going to have a concrete basin already. It's, 60,000 gallons.
Yeah.
Then you have each lagoon, I think, or each cell is 130,000. And I know occasionally you get 80,000 gallons a day of flow, right? But that's...
We've had 120, 130,
Okay.
a couple times.
Yeah, so, but it shouldn't be a problem with the
A
system
couple
you
days
have.
with a heavy runoff.
Yeah, and you're gonna have at least 200,000 gallons of capacity, even if you abandon one. So I don't think it'll be a problem. You know, that doesn't, you put something in, it's still gotta be operated. This gives you better flexibility, I think reduces the potential of problems down the road. And so I think that, while you still have to operate it, I wanted to give you as much flexibility as possible at the cheapest price I could think of. And I wanted to use as much of the existing infrastructure as possible. Add units that won't cost you a lot of power, and yet make things smoother for you to operate. You don't even have to use the extra lagoon during low flow periods. You have enough capacity in just the converted basins.
I've talked to you about this, that aeration cell that we're not using has been full right up to the top of the flanges on the discharge going into Lagoon 1.
Mm-hmm.
It's not been all it's gotten is a little bit of rainwater, and it is not evaporated, nothing. It's not leaking, and it's been that way for 9 months.
Yeah.
How can they say it's leaking?
I don't
All
know.
we're adding is, we've added 29 inches now of rain over the whole year. But it's never gone below the top of the flanges.
Yeah.
And so they claim we're getting bad stuff in our SM2. That could be migrating, like I told you, it's migrating from the lagoon, number one, as well as, the groundwater from the
Yeah.
creek.
And it could be migrating from, who knows, it could be migrating from the leaky lagoons. I don't know.
Maybe leaky sewer lines?
Out there, no.
Probably not.
That's all new, but, we've got groundwater issues out there too, but, I just don't understand if that thing is not dropped at all. All the evaporation that we've had this summer has been the amount of rain that we've had in that aeration cell, and it's evaporated at all. The rest of it, it's been there all year.
Yeah. I don't know.
I
I know
showed you
that,
pictures of it.
yeah.
And it's gotta be, the correlation right now, the Lagoon 1 is way down low, and so is the settling, or the SM2. I don't know, there's no way that lagoon is not contributing to the effluent in SM2.
So what did ecology say when you brought that up?
They haven't said nothing. How do we bring it to their attention?
Just call them. So I bring stuff to their attention, I just call them and talk to them about it. And
Because it's
talk
got-
to, what's his name? Andy
Andy O'Neill.
O'Neill, yeah.
Yeah, I've talked to him about it.
No, ecology is pretty invested in making sure that they don't have problems with their treatment plants, So I would just call and talk to them about it. Another thing I wanted to bring up is that I talked to Cynthia Wall. You guys know Cynthia. You guys have talked to her. And she's the one that recommended we apply for step 4. I was just going to apply for the plans and specs. And she said, well, you might consider applying for step 4 because I think it's or close to, maybe they haven't expended money because of the pandemic, but they said there's money now. Whenever somebody mentions that to me, now's the time. I get real suspicious. I'm not real susceptible to that, but she said the money's there. I can't promise you if you apply next year, if you complete the plans and specs, that it's still going to be there. And they said it is 75% money. And I said, so I was thinking about also applying on their behalf to CDBG for part of their 25%. She said, well, we've been pretty successful. And I asked Kim Priceoff whether or not she thought we should apply for step 4. And I said, and if you think we should, then don't bother calling back. And if you think we shouldn't, then call back. And she called me back, so I said, oh, she doesn't. And she said, no, I just wanted to let you know that I really think you should apply for the step 4, which would be including construction. And I said, well, I'm thinking of applying on their behalf with CDBG, and then I don't know, it was her or Cynthia said, that, well, we've had 3 projects over the last couple of years that they've participated in after. But I think with their level of funding, it'd be better to go with ecology first, and then see how much more money we can get out of CDBG. And John's a real good guy.
If we apply through ecology and are awarded the money, are we bound to using that money before we apply to CDBG?
No. You won't be able to anyway until we do the plans and specs.
Okay.
And
So I know that was a question from some other council members, is kind of where's that point of commitment?
yeah.
You mentioned-
because they'll award, and you'll have a preliminary finding, I think in January or February. They'll award the money in June, and this would be for the step 4. I don't think that if you don't tell them you're not gonna use it, they probably ask for repayment once the plans and specs are approved, if you decide to opt out. But if you decide to go through, like I said, money doesn't need to be repaid for either the plans and specs or the construction till I assume 2024. 1 year after you have the new plant constructed. But it's a big, it's a big decision to make. We're looking at probably at least $17,000 at a minimum, $17,000 additional expenditure. I think you'll save money in operations. I think you'll save money in headache. Plus, you won't have to document to ecology that your lagoons are not leaking, which would be an interesting process. Since you're sitting in the groundwater part of the time, I don't know how you actually do that and convince everybody you're not leaking from the lagoon. When you know that lagoons, the idea is that lagoons leak, you've only got a 40 mil liner, and it's a single liner without any means of extracting the leakage. And they have found coliform in there. Whether the coliform's from the lined lagoon or from the wetland you have, nobody knows for sure.
Well,
And that's what they're using as proof that you're leaking, is because you have coliform
Well,
in
we should fine the Department of Ecology for contaminating our treatment plant. Right?
it. You can't do that, unfortunately.
That house, Wade Schultz, built the trailer, I think they're in now. Anyways, there was chloroform, or coliform in there, and they drove that well,
In their well?
in the drinking well there.
How deep is their well?
That I don't know, that's something, that was drilled in the early 90s, I believe.
Oh, wow. Always people will say, well, they didn't properly case it. They
That
didn't
could
properly,
happen too, but
you know.
they drilled, basically, it was pasture, I mean, it was, just adjacent to the ponds. But there was cattle, there's other
Yeah,
other
that's
sources, I'm sure. But I think somehow they cleaned it up, I don't know how they did,
Huh.
maybe cased it deeper or something.
Because they have that wellhead protection thing where you're not supposed to be allowed grazing and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know, as far as I'm concerned, well drilling is a black box. We're drilling probably 800, down in Basin City, we're drilling a new well for them, about 800 feet, because they need a secondary well. And just shake my head, it's gonna cost a lot to drill the well, and you never know what you're gonna get, as far as I'm concerned. You're relying
Yeah,
on a
so
well
lower than
driller
that.
experienced in the area. I don't know, it's real scary to me, and it's expensive. I think we're drilling at 16-inch hole.
Question. Some while ago, half an hour, 40 minutes ago, you addressed step 4 funding, and I thought you said there was a limit of 900,000 on it.
That's for CDBG.
Uh,
There's a $7 million limit, I think, for ecology.
I see.
That would about do it for us.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
That would be good to get.
We can get a little plated Vector truck.
And one more question. You mentioned something about a loan grant that can be applied for only a year after construction is completed. I didn't,
No. A year after construction is completed is when they expect repayment of the loan portion.
I see. Okay, thank you.
And I assume that would be 2024.
And that's the start of the payment portion.
Yeah. How many more years do you have on your existing loan for the plant? The RD grant?
Probably 15, and
I don't think it's that long. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
we paid the first one off,
Okay.
and then we're working on the second one.
And I'll be honest with you, I would have finished up the report and said, well, they can't afford, I talked to Janice about this. I said, you can't afford any of this, honestly.
You can.
No.
Yeah, but at least a 75% grant where if you save money in operation might be a worthwhile thing for you guys to consider. you know, but.
That money saved has got to be thrown into that equation at some
I think
point.
so, because, you know, I think that's important.
What does it cost us now per day or per month?
I don't know that number.
What do you need from us today?
Do you want me to proceed with the application? The time limit is, I have 2 that are going in. One is for, I was up at Medellin Falls last time. We're separating the sewers, the sanitary from the stormwater. And in front of the school as we were waiting, we went, wow, what's that smell? So we lifted the grates. The kids are getting on the bus, okay? Lifted the grates, and there's raw sewage in there. So I have to modify that. I'm putting in an application, a rush job on that one too, to separate the sanitary lines, which then throws all my calculations out for the stormwater treatment and the dry wells I'm putting in. But Ecology said, you know, you'll probably get your money right away because if you got kids, raw sewage, they give you money right away. But that's a smaller project, at least for the planning and the design that we're putting together. I don't know how much the final
So
construction.
if we go for this, you estimate starting in 22,
No,
21?
as soon as, if they give us the money for the plans and specs, step 4, which includes plans and specs and construction, then I would like to start in June or July developing the plans. 9 months later, have the plans done. And then at an appropriate time to go out to bid, which would probably be at the beginning of the year. Maybe it'll be less if we get done faster. You know, my experience has been if we go out for bid in January through February, we get better prices.
Slower. Construction's slower.
Yep. Beginning, they're trying to, you know, get their work set up. And for you guys, maybe the most important thing is you don't have to pay back anything till 2024. So, I always prefer going out to bid in January through March. So maybe we wait a little bit for that to get the better prices.
So if we go
Like I
for-
said, everything's, repayment is gonna be based on when we complete the project.
You're not
one
gonna
year
try to
after.
go to bid this January then? Is that what you're
No,
talking,
I-
next year,
No,
January?
Yeah. That's why there's a schedule.
'Cause they're not going to award this till June anyways.
Yeah, they're not gonna award till June.
21.
Correct.
Schedules, page 6-9.
Yeah. So then preliminary plans, maybe in March, complete plans and specs. Advertised 2023. Complete November 2023. Repayment starts November 2024, a year later. Wow, it's 4 years from now.
Now, does this has to go to the council, then, doesn't it, Nathan,
What?
to move forward with this, right?
That's what we're doing. That's why we're meeting.
So this fancy go-go gadget,
It's pretty slick,
is it
actually.
gonna handle
Won't handle rocks.
Barbie doll heads along with
Should-
these
well,
quote
yeah, there's
flushable
there's
wipes?
gonna be a channel.
I'll just give them a go ahead.
I should have brought you a picture of the one we put in.
I see the bypass channel with a couple.
Yeah, no, that's for
screens.
maintenance. But then there's a channel in there with a screen and stuff. You get a lot of Barbie doll heads in there.
The main thing that we're pulling out of the screens is these flushable wipes that ain't so flushable.
Yeah, yeah.
Or biodegradable, or
Well, that will just plug that screen up.
No, don't worry, they thought of everything. This technology has been around for 20 years, so.
Is that part of this
Let me see.
3/4 inch supply for spray wash? Is that for disintegrating?
No, that's for cleaning
that
off
crap?
cleaning off stuff. I should have brought the channel. There's gonna be.
Yeah, that was the original goal. These guys here.
There's gonna be something for, I know. This, when this works, it'll move stuff up through here. And then the screen, the quarter-inch screen lets everything out.
And I see the auger is what pulls it up.
Yeah.
Application process that doesn't.
And so this will take care of the larger stuff.
And
there'll be a
this just,
channel.
it's supposed to fall out just by gravity,
Yep,
let go.
yep, and it does. The auger runs all the way up.
So that's like some indestructible, never gonna get a
No.
hairy edge on the edge of the auger.
Hopefully, it really will, but it's,
Because I just, it looks awful fancy and a great idea, but in reality,
it's amazing.
now we have a smaller screen to get plugged more completely.
Well, the thing is that it's gravity, so this is the motor.
Okay,
How does it go? Oh, it basically augers stuff up, and then,
in theory, everything has to pass through this then, if it's gonna bag the heavy
no,
solids.
the heavy solids come up here. The rest of the flow comes through here. How is that placed in here?
Isn't there a screen on the intake?
Here's our flow in.
Flow in, comes through here. There's, I remember here's a channel, and so it goes through here, but that's not quarter, the screen's a quarter-inch, and everything else goes through here. It'll back up here, and then slowly make its way up, and the screen.
So this is a catch cage for the
Yeah.
stuff to fall in on the top.
Well, I don't know if you can catch cage, but the auger will go here, the screen will go here, stuff will pass through here. Quarter-inch will get caught up here, but instead of just being stopped like a bar screen or anything else, or any kind of
Would that
manual
be scraped
screen,
off every couple hours?
it'll be put in here. No, it shouldn't. I remember there's it flows quickly enough. And there's a sensor in there that back flushes, if I remember. It's not a high maintenance item, it really isn't. Because you see these, they have towels and stuff at Crystal Mountain. Wow. So they have all kinds of stuff, and it's a short run from the accommodations to the plant.
Okay.
So,
And this bagger is what's supposed to grab the stuff that isn't gonna go through a clean up of the system. We pay someone to take that, like a septic service
No,
company,
we can
or,
put it in a dumpster, our garbage can will take it.
in a dumpster.
okay. This dewatering chamber, is that a spin gig, centrifugal?
Yes,
Okay. So that's your large intestine just before the anus
that's
right
right,
here.
that's right.
There's the toilet
Yeah.
for the big crap.
So I think the thing goes through here, and then the screen works, but it's going to operate, the auger picks up all the stuff and scrapes it. And so I don't, my knowledge and talking to the operator at Crystal, it's not much of a problem.
Okay.
We put one up at Sashing Lake too. And they don't have much of a problem there with it. It's a good system for that reason.
I don't understand why you have an expulsion point for large objects when you have a smaller screen at the bottom.
Oh, because it gets caught up in the auger, gets carried up to here, and then it gets dumped.
Everything has to go across this auger,
Yeah.
and liquid
The
flows
the
by.
auger is only to take the heavy material out and to put it for disposal. This is the screen. This is like a bar screen. The auger is, forget, the auger really doesn't. It's the screen, this screen,
So the wipes are floating on top, they're not heavy. How's the deal with that?
it floats.
I'm not trying to be a jerk or nothing.
No,
I'm
this
just-
is a valid question.
Okay.
They'll get caught up here. My understanding is they'll get caught up at the top here and they'll just be sent up here.
So
All up here.
everything, one way or another, has to pass across this,
Has to pass across the screen.
okay?
And then-
And nothing bigger than that size of screen is gonna get by.
Is gonna get by, everything else gets augered up.
So how does it let regular turds through that screen?
Because basically it,
It's gonna be an agitation thing too,
yeah, it'll actually grind them into smaller pieces here.
Okay. With constant liquid on there, it has something to carry the smaller bits away.
A quarter-inch is really pretty big.
not released into a turd.
Huh?
not in relation to a turd.
Well, it's not gonna be a solid, it's not gonna be a solid turd that goes through, it'll be ground up, it would be, against the screen of the oven. These are all stainless steel, so it'll just kind of grind it up and make it small enough.
I need titanium.
So Andy, you're wanting a draft of application in today or sometime?
Well, just authorization. They've actually closed, I finished about half the application. Like I said, I'll take the risk that you guys will say no, and, but, you know, I think it's a, you know, because I'm working for you, you know, sometimes you want advice whether it's a good deal or not. I think it is a very good deal.
Yeah.
Bottom line is it's not gonna raise our rates,
I don't think.
and it's gonna clean up the issues we're having.
Yeah, and you do have a number of issues that, did you guys, whatever happened to the 5,000 they penalized you?
One
Paid
of
it.
it was mitigated with Ecology Park,
Okay?
and we paid the 5,000 this last time.
We're
We want
thinking
that
of
back,
writing a
Ken,
letter.
by the way.
The what?
We're thinking of writing a letter to talk about, for example, this project. Explain that that 5,000 could be used very beneficially.
You should, you should.
And in my opinion, I think there's a reasonable chance, it's worth writing a letter that we might
It's
get
always
that.
worth writing a letter. It
We
always
might
is.
get that, all or part of that 5,000 back.
Sure. And again, I'll tell you, when I worked at Ecology, the biggest thing was that people were sincere in saying, we need this because we're making this progress. It matters a lot.
Mhm.
You'd be surprised what gets mitigated or actually eliminated because of that. The main thing, Ecology doesn't need, you know, is not going to use the money for anything other than, you know, it's the hammer they use. You know,
Mhm.
I sent out letters that, and somebody just, they were putting in something illegally and, you know, a treatment plant or just completely ignored everything. And I just said, well, I can charge you $10,000 a day. And you'd be surprised how much, they come back and they'd say, oh gosh, you know, my phone didn't work or something like that. I said, that's fine, I don't really care. We don't need the money. We don't want the money. We want you to just do stuff right.
So like David said, we only have 2 council members here, which was less than expected, obviously, so we don't necessarily can't take a vote, but can we have you proceed with the application and then have
Yep.
to meet again and
Well, actually, like I said, you know, just let me know. We got to put Janice on the application as the administrative person on there. And then I put you as the signatory
Mhm.
on all of it, but you might want to, you know, sign somebody else to do other stuff.
right?
And yeah, they shut down the Eagle site till Monday
Yeah.
anyway.
So
I'm just going to spend time, because I know what some of the questions, the biggest one that I need to put together is this the most cost-effective option? And how is it going to benefit the groundwater? I haven't filled out those portions. So I can write that out, plus I can work on the engineering report and address Kim's comments. The timetable I have is this. The application has to go in by October 13th. So I want to get it done for both Kim and Cynthia to review, because they're real helpful in saying, oh, you need to beef this up, and then we send it in. You guys have to send it in, I can't, I'm just a contractor on it. And then I need to finish the engineering report, which won't be a problem, by December 10th.
just some of the stuff that Kim sent back.
Yeah, I got to
Stuff.
address all of that.
Yeah.
Which I've addressed most of them already. I'm going to start with a letter, and then if she accepts that, then I'll just redo the engineering report, and then get that approved, and I'll send you guys a copy of that.
We don't meet again until the 13th, so I think that we're going to need to meet additionally before then. I mean, to give Andy enough time to, obviously, we don't want to try voting on that to submit the application 7 o'clock the same night that it's due, so,
Yeah, they did. The deadline is 5.
yeah, exactly.
Can we submit it electronically, I presume?
Yeah, it is. It's on
It's
the
all
Eagle site.
electronic.
It all is electronic.
Okay.
But,
What kind of turnover you figure time-wise you need with Cynthia or Kim or whoever?
they'll rush it.
Couple
I don't know.
days.
I just want to get it as soon as
Yeah.
possible. And like
No, I would
said,
shoot for early next week. I want to give you the most time, you know?
No, I'm going to work on it. Like I said, I'm working on Meadowline Falls, I'm working on this, and I've got to get some other correspondence out on the well at Basin City. And anyway, yeah, I'm still going to work on it, regardless.
Okay.
Unless you told me no.
Well, you honestly, I mean, this is the best, in our situation, is this the best design? I mean, it's not gonna be like, oh, 5 years from now, we got screwed, you know, like.
I'm not changing it. See, the thing is, I'm not changing much of anything.
Right.
Right.
That's the way I look at it.
Just enhancing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And that's the thing, that's why I don't want to put in anything really new. As far as I'm concerned, it's always easier to retrofit a design on something. I'll tell you another situation. A couple of years ago, Selkirk High School had a problem, and I heard about it. Actually, colleges, can you do anything for them? And so what I did was, I went up there, and the problem the engineer did, he made a funny design on actually a plant. He put in a 1-inch line for the air in this basin, okay? The problem with, 1-inch line is the bubbles are really big. So if the blowers would go off when the operator came in, and it was only this much below the floor, it'd run over and he couldn't get into the plant. So it's a simple fix. You put in diffusers like that at the end. I don't know why he didn't do that. Then the thing was oversized by 5 times because it was he designed it as a 5,000 gallon facility per day. And they only generate 1,000 gallons at Selkirk High School. So we talked about it, and they wanted to put in a little basin, or a 30-inch tube that they bought, but it came only in, 10-foot lengths. So they cut it, put it in there, and I said, what you need to do is put a pipe in, put an overflow. So it runs in, overflows in, and it's better. Then the final clarifier would have rising sludge because it was way oversized. So I said, you know what? They wanted to put a smaller basin and say, you know what? Your facility's so big. Let's get that 30-inch thing, 30-inch tube, put it in I should have brought the plans. And then anyway, so put it in, put some tubing in there, so it's like a circular clarifier, and then glue it to the bottom basically, and they were real handy. And so did that, redid the piping, redid the sludge return, and it put it in the middle of the aeration basin. But they didn't need all the capacity for aeration. And so it works great, and I said, use your 5,000 gallon tankage as a polishing pond. And it operates really well. The thing is, it met its limits. The thing was just not operational. So, and they didn't like the rising sludge because there's so much retention time and stuff like that. And there's really no need to have that in there. So anyway, we made those modifications, and Ecology was real cooperative because they were getting complaints because they had funded part of it. And they were calling, the school was constantly, why did you approve this thing? And so when we're done, I drew stuff up, and they built it themselves, and they said, Ecology said, and this shows you, Ecology really wants to be helpful. They said, this is operation and maintenance. You don't have to stamp it. They just build it themselves, and it operates great. They can operate it. They're happy. And the good thing for me was that because of that, the science teacher, who's a treatment plant operator, had some problems in Meadowline Falls, and that's why I'm doing the project up there. He liked what we did. So anyway. But Ecology really is on your guys' side.
What was the community that had the 1-inch pipe? Air?
So this was Selkirk High School. Selkirk High School.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Selkirk High School.
It's not
On the way
very
to
far
Meadowline
from
Falls.
Meadowline Falls, but
Yeah.
it's up in northeastern.
And it works out real well for us because when I found that the sanitary wastewater that I told you about was going to Medellin Falls, the stormwater system, I want to put a dry well and I want to put it in the school property. But the school district has a pretty good, has a pretty good opinion of us from what we did at the high school, so, yeah, you can do that. Oh, by the way, the dry well or the inlet that we have behind the school, it's placed at the wrong place. And anyway, the church is putting raw sewage into that line anyway. So I'm gonna disconnect it, fill it in, and put the dry well closer to where she wants it, superintendent wants it, which is also beneficial because I've got an inlet that I need to put a dry well in, and I think she'll let me put it in there.
Okay, well, we can break from here.
Okay.
We'll have to schedule another meeting where we have enough council members. And
Meeting or another?
that was the goal today, but obviously that didn't happen, so.
Great presentation, Andy, good material.
Well,
You've laid it
We
all
have to
well,
have-
I really do think it's beneficial for you.
I'm gonna